go. It is time to start the show. And I'm going to get started right after this.
Hey everybody, it's Friday night, so I appreciate you all getting back together. And anyone here who's not here yet, I'm glad you made it, or you'll be able to see it later. But it's Friday night, so we're gonna get together and talk a little bit about just about everything, right? So if you didn't notice, I got my ears lowered. That's correct. Got my hair cut, and I also cut my grass. And yes, if you seen my yard, you would say it was a sea of green. I tell you, I was walking out there, and I'm really embarrassed. I tell you what, because when I walk out, you shouldn't lose your waistline, and that's where my grass was at, and it's bad. And I guess you could say shout out to the septic system because the leach lines are really working. There you go. So I got a really good weed eater. Yes, I got a good weed eater because I got 5 lawnmowers. And the idea is one of them is going to work, right? So I'm going to try to take 5 of them and put them together and make one, right? That's kind of like what the Niners tried to do with the quarterbacks a couple of years ago. They had so many and they tried to, and now we got one, right? We got one. And there's one.
I thought you had like goats tied to your fence or something, buddy, when you said you had 5. I thought you had goats.
So there's another joke too to that lawnmower thing, right? Because they're all junk. All these lawnmowers I've bought in over the years, like one worked for a day and it's like it didn't work after that. And it's not I'm a bad, guy. I keep my equipment good and I keep it up. I put it in the garage and it doesn't get rained on. But the one I went to Sears and bought is just trash. It's trash. It never seemed to suck up the grass the way it should have. It had a bagger. Every time I used it, I would go to empty the bag and there would be no grass in it. So something definitely didn't work. Right. But what we're going to do is we're going to put all 5 lawnmowers out in front of the yard. Right. And we're going to put 3, but you have to take all 5. You can't pick and choose. You have to take all of them or you can't have one of them. There's no pickers and choosers. Can't be choosy. So that's what we're doing, folks. The yard's been clipped. The hair's been clipped and it's Friday night. So how are you feeling, Kenny? And then we'll ask David.
I'm awesome, man. I had a better week than last week and I'm still here. I have all my limbs. I'm good to go.
All right, David, how you doing?
I'm great. Showed up to work to a surprise this morning, and the boss I liked is back, baby. He's back. So
that's awesome.
So it's awesome.
So to pivot,
who do we got today? Who's on the show? Who's on the show today?
We got a great guest, and I'm gonna bring him in here in a second. But before we do that, there's somebody in the news still, and they keep coming back. And it might be the one that got away. It might be the one that we should have picked up a while ago. And that's what I was getting at with the accumulation of quarterbacks. Now we have one, right? We had many, and now we have one. Well, why is Tom Brady still being brought up? Right, folks? Why? Because
there's no news.
There's no news. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you.
And to cover up the stuff.
Look, guys. I'm going to give you the reason he's not coming back. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Because his middle name is not Richard.
Wow.
You had James Richard Garoppolo. You had Brock Richard Purdy.
Yeah.
Tom Brady actually has a couple middle names, but neither of them are Richard. I'm actually going to tell you. It's Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. None of those are Richard, so he's never going to be a 49er.
Richard is long for something else, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well,
but Kyle likes his Richard. So
So we have a great guest tonight, and I am really, really excited because I've been hearing this guy on YouTube for a very long time. It's very, very awesome. It's like sometimes people aren't, the smoothest, and sometimes people are like, the I don't know, what would you say? People get behind a camera and they get scared. This guy is not scared. This guy is very smooth. He is very comfortable, and when he's on, you listen to him, and he's like really cool. He shows you respect, and he gets it. And I've seen multiple people come in and listen to him, and I've seen him over time work with one of my buddies. I call him my big brother. He's called me, his little brother. My guy, Mr. Rombo Sports. Great guy, but if you've listened to Rombo Sports, you've heard Tony Nagatani, and this is the man, this is the myth, this is the legend. We're bringing him on right now, and I would like to say thank you very much.
Oh, Brian, you're really far too kind. Aloha, everybody.
There he is.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I can live up to that introduction, but I very much appreciate it. And honestly, I was not expecting anyone to ever ask me to come in on their show and to actually talk. I'm usually the guy who annoyingly is in the chat or is calling in on those awesome call-in shows like Ronbo. So, but thank you for this invitation. It's really cool.
Well, I am really, really excited because I've heard you call in several times. I've seen the video calls, and there's times where the show's going totally off center, and you come in and you steer a different course, and you bring it back, right? So with that, I would like to ask you a bunch of questions, starting out with hey, how did you become a 49er fan? Because I understand you're not in California, and it's one of those things. So first, everybody, I know Tony, but Tony, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, sure. So I am born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and growing up out here, we don't have a professional sports team, and which actually lets all the kids pick whatever team they kind of want, which most of the time ends up being you end up liking the team your dad or your mom likes. And that was not the case for me. So my father is from Chicago originally, and then moved to Honolulu in the 60s. And he was a diehard Bears fan. And it was funny. We were going on a trip or something, and we needed to get a coat because we were going to a place that was snowing. We didn't have any of those because, hey, Hawaii. And we were in Sears, and we walked by this bin, and there was an old school gold 49ers starter jacket, like that. And I also, my favorite color was red. I was a little bit of a late bloomer for football, and I didn't really have a team at that point. A lot of my friends liked the 49ers, or their parents liked the 49ers, so I was kind of around it. So it seemed that was socially okay. But I bought that jacket, and it was gold and the red with like the patch and all that. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Wore it around, the next couple of trips we went for, random snow trips that my parents took me on. And as a result of that, I just kind of became a 49er fan. And, I really got to thank my dad for, against his better judgment, letting me buy that 49ers jacket over a Bears jacket, which I'm sure he wished that I bought instead. But my life has certainly been a lot happier as a result of being a 49ers fan. And so that was in the late 80s at that point. So it was the tail end of the Joe Montana years. And so, I was sentient. I was aware when Joe Montana got traded. And I remember being like, wow, that was really something. So I went through that as a young kid, and then watched that awesome 94, the last pre-free age or pre-salary cap era team that just honestly, that was one of the best teams I've ever seen assembled. And that was that. And strangely enough, I was a 49er fan going into that season because of the jacket, but that was the first season I actually truly rooted for the team. And as luck would have it, they got Deion Sanders that year. They went all the way. They beat the Cowboys, all that awesome stuff. And I was hooked. And that's how I became a 49er fan.
Awesome. So you do come from a family that roots for sports. Is football your guys' primary sport in your family, or do you come from a family of athletes, or a family of not spectators, but a family that that loves maybe just not the most athletic, but maybe does go and play a little bit? Do you guys have a sport that your family comes from, or do
Well,
you play any
okay.
sports?
Well, so a couple of things on that front. So I'm half Japanese and half Irish. My father Japanese, my mother of Irish ancestry, and so my mother's side of the family were basketball players. No great athletes, but they were all tall of stature. And luckily I inherited some of that from my mother's side. But that being said, I was not a very good athlete. I was also I was a late bloomer too. I left for college 5'10", my senior year of high school, and I came back, like 6'3" from freshman year of college. So, I wasn't exactly the first pick on any of the schoolyard games, and so I didn't really grow up playing a lot of sports. Even though I do think now there was some latent athletic ability there, but it just never got developed. And oh well, that's fine. I tried to play football for a hot minute, and I was awful because, again, I wasn't the smallest, but I just wasn't as good as the bigger kids who were older than I was. So I never really got many opportunities to kind of get good. And I didn't really, because it just didn't seem like a good use of my time. And so I kind of got more into the arts, those sorts of things, more speech and debate type of stuff, So, but that being said, my father, did a lot of things, but one of the things he did is that he was a statistician for the University of Hawaii basketball and football games. And so he was a sports fan. He worked in the sports information department part-time sometimes at University of Hawaii. And so we always had access to University of Hawaii and Pro Bowl and Aloha Bowl back then, and Hula Bowl tickets and Rainbow Classic, those sorts of stuff. And so when I cared to, I was taken to games, and so I was raised adjacent to sports. And actually, my father he was a pretty prominent member of the sports community out here. He passed away over 10 years ago now. So, but he was very much a sports guy, but always from the statistics end of things, like the infrastructure end of things, not so much on the player side. And so, I think I inherited a little bit of that, love of the numbers, for the numbers of football. And, because I was just around my dad, who was on the sidelines or up in the booth, or courtside with a typewriter, because he could type really fast, and he would just type as the game was going on for all the basketball and all the football games. And so it was just something that, it made sense to me because I just kind of grew up around that. And so, so football is my only sport, and really it's NFL football. Although now that we have so much access to all the all 11 or all 22 tape from college and everything, draft scouting has started to become interesting to me. And I've been trying to get into college football, but the fact of the matter is, I'm a bit mentally ill for the San Francisco 49ers. And, I keep only enough RAM in my brain for the 49ers and for the things that surround that. And so, yeah, that's kind of my sports background.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then I'm going to throw it to
Please.
Kenny so ask you a couple of questions, and then David as well. So for me, I'm probably a lot like you. I'm a sports guy where I like the numbers. If I could be a writer for the sports team, I really don't know what team I really wouldn't want to write for. That's how passionate I am. I would write about the Raiders, the Packers, any team, right? Just to get in and be able to, because I have that heart. I'm not the biggest guy out there. I'm about 5'7" on a good day. I was the third string quarterback on my freshman football team. I was the kicker, and I'm the guy that you don't say, yeah, you're going to go make it, Bryant, because when I get too much into my I'll shank it. But if you tell me I'm going to miss it, then I got something to prove. I got that chip on my shoulder. I gotta do something about it. I'm going to not prove you wrong, but I'm going to prove that I'm not. I am that guy. I can do it. All right. So for me, my mom and dad started they were watching a football game one day, and I come into the house, into the room where everybody was at. I think it was the living room, and I said, "What are you guys watching? The NFL?" And they all started laughing, and I didn't, yeah, it's the NFL, right? Well, it was the Super Bowl, and it was the Niners versus the Chargers, and so I sat down and I watched the rest of the game with them, and I didn't know really what was going on. The next year, I'm watching the next Super Bowl, and I didn't really kind of understand, but I know it was the Steelers and Cowboys, and then from there on, I'm watching the next season, and I really haven't missed a 49er game since, and I might have missed maybe 3 or 4 games that I couldn't watch. And if I couldn't watch it, I've listened to it, so for me, it's a big passion. And because it's that much of a passion, like Sundays, I told everybody, I'll fold clothes, I'll do all this other stuff in the house, but I want to be in front of the TV so I can watch the game. And that's not a big deal, but it does take out some time. So because of that passion, right. And I get hurt. I break arms, I break ankles and stuff. So I'm usually on the couch. I'm not that athletic of a person or graceful. So my mom and dad, they see if I get into something, I get really passionate. So I like fantasy football and I like other things like that. Well, when I wanted to get into other sports, they said, no, you need to back up because sometimes going in is too far. And there is a point where you have to stop. So like, I love, we don't have to get too religious, but I do love Jesus and I love God. And I also love, I love America and I love my family and I love the 49ers and Batman. Any one of those arrangements that you kind of want to put in. I have probably over 600 Batman comics. I know it's a little crazy, but I do like talking about Batman, and I will get your thoughts later here in a few minutes about the X-Men. But, yeah, I'm really excited because you are easy to talk to, and you have a lot of passion, just like what I feel. And yeah, I'm just really excited. So I'm gonna throw it to Kenny because I know Kenny hasn't met you before, and here Kenny's got some questions.
How are you, Tony? It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Kenny. Thanks for having me on.
I've seen you in the chats. I didn't know you, and now I do. That's why you're here. So people can know more about the people they see in the chats, and they not everyone is a creator, mm-hmm. right? But you still have some opinions that are worth listening to, mm-hmm. and we'd like to know who you people are. Mm-hmm. But Brian already knew you, so we're here to get to know you too. First I want to say you dodged a bullet, because imagine if you became a Bears fan for the one time they went to the Super Bowl, mm-hmm. and now you're stuck with them forever. You know how hard it is to shake a team, even if they're terrible. They're your team, so you're stuck with them. So you dodged a bullet there. I also wanted to ask: was your dad's briefcase? He was a briefcase typewriter, or was it just a typewriter?
So it was provided by the university. It was a mechanical. It was an electric typewriter. They eventually changed to computers, but for most of my life, they were still on like one of those like electric typewriters. So, but the school would set it up. Yeah.
Well, it's cool you live in Hawaii. Is Hawaii when someone says to me Kauai, are they saying Hawaii?
Oh no. So
is that two different things?
Yeah. So Kauai, okay. It's Kauai is an island in the chain. It's the most northwest of the habitable Hawaiian islands. And then it's a little bit confusing because we are the state of Hawaii, and also the biggest island in the state of Hawaii, because it's a group of islands, is also called the island of Hawaii. So colloquially, we refer to the island of Hawaii as the Big Island, although I think we're going to be stopping doing that sometime soon. So I don't know. I'm always going to call it the Big Island, I think, because that's how I was raised. But that being said, so Hawaii, Big Island, Kauai, all different things. Yeah.
Got it. And I know other people had that question, but they didn't want to sound stupid. So now everyone knows. I've actually been to Honolulu, and I had an amazing time. I just didn't have enough time, and I was there with someone I didn't like very much, so it wasn't fun.
Fair. How long ago?
Very envious of you.
When were you out here? Like how long ago?
Okay, I think it was 2008 or 2009. Okay.
Things have changed a little bit since then. Granted, I've lived on the mainland, on the continental United States, also for a good period of time in my life. But I moved home in 2020 because work went remote and stuff. But I will say, the island is, it's changing, and it's a little bit different than it was in 2008. So please come back because it's but maybe
I would like to.
Go visit all the other islands too, by the way. Go visit Kauai. Go visit Big Island. Go visit Maui. I love Honolulu. I love it. I love living here. I couldn't live anywhere else in Hawaii because I need city. But that being said, go visit some of the natural, beauty islands kind of a thing.
Well, it won't shock you to hear why I was there. There was a wedding.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
Yeah, a totally original thing. A Hawaiian wedding.
Gotcha.
But I did go to the Dole Plantation, and it was awesome. And there were some beautiful temples out there. So I'm very envious of you that you get to live out there.
Yes.
But I'm not envious about the fact that you live on the top of volcanoes that could erupt at any moment.
Well, only one island has an active volcano. So Oahu, the island that I live on, the volcanoes have been extinct for, I don't know, tens of thousands, if not more years. So, yeah.
I'm teasing you, but people think this stuff. So this is the fun way to get everyone to learn this stuff. All right. And here's my deep thoughts question.
Okay.
My Jack Handy question. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
For me, it's do your homework. It's absolutely do your homework. I very recently came down with a diagnosis of like adult ADHD, et cetera, and I could never really focus on my homework. And I wish that I had just spent more time doing my homework because my parents would have been happier with me first and foremost, but I think I would have felt a lot more proud of myself going forward. But I, for whatever the reason, just couldn't concentrate, and so. Some things kind of slip by.
When you were younger, teachers thought you had problems, but you didn't have problems. You were totally fine. It's just that you'd learn differently. Correct?
Well, I would always get the comment, like Anthony is so smart, except only when he tries, and
you need to be engaged because
you
were a smart kid and they were moving too slowly. So
things like that. Yeah. And a lot of things. I just wish if I could go back and change one thing, it would have been, I wish I'd been more disciplined with my ability to just stay on academic task.
I have one more question for you, and then I'll pass you on to David the Great. What do you think is the most significant issue facing humanity today?
The most significant issue facing humanity today. Goodness. Honestly, it's the future of energy. Is what it is. As the world goes forward, as we will run out of fossil fuels at some point. So how do we create sustainable energy that isn't going to screw up the planet? And so if we could solve that, because with energy, we can, do electrolysis on water, and we could then, give everyone clean drinking water, right? With the energy, we can, we can go to the stars, we can power our cars, we can do all those sorts of things. But how do we get that energy? And so, like all of the various things that we can do, to have, I guess, smarter and more energy at less of a cost, but in a way that doesn't, screw up our planet in the long term is what I think what we should be focusing on.
In my opinion, it would be solar, which is only going to get hotter and hotter until it blows up and we have nothing, or cold fusion. Those are all right.
Yeah.
Hydrogen.
Yeah. Well, have you done any reading into SMR, small modular nuclear reactors?
I don't want to show off, but no.
Okay. So, okay. We're on YouTube right now, so a lot of people can just look this up. There, about almost 20 years ago now, there was at that time this boy genius. I forget his name, but he was giving a TED talk, and he went to the Genius School in Northern Nevada and all that sort of stuff, right? But he built a fission reactor in his parents' garage.
Amazing.
Okay, so again, genius. Okay, so but he was obviously a big thinker, and he was trying to envision, well, how do we do energy in the future? And he realized that, because of the invention of the salt core, nuclear reactors that physically cannot melt down, they could use those salt cores and take that and, a small refrigerator-sized power plant that could be then, encased in cement and then buried underground. So that way it'd be very difficult for a terrorist or someone to go and steal the uranium out of it. Right. You could,
or at least a fence, right?
Yeah. Well,
because our grids right now are defended by nobody.
Indeed. Well, defended by computers, which is even scarier. But that being said, his estimate was, one small modular nuclear reactor that could cost about $4.7 million could power 20,000 homes for 60 years. Was his estimate. And, I mean, that is not a feasible solution for everywhere. Hawaii, I don't think they would want to have nuclear devices buried underground, for instance, but you look at California, you look at everywhere else. I mean,
Well, nuclear waste, right? You can't get rid of nuclear waste. You can only put it somewhere.
Right.
It can't be destroyed. It can't be broken down. It's just, it's scary stuff.
It's true.
I assume that's what the moon will be for.
Or like in Superman 4, we could just shoot it into the sun, at some point. Yeah. So
it may not make it there if we're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's the thing though. And, again, the threat of nuclear meltdown does not exist with these new nuclear reactors. Now I will say that is always a bridge to get to fusion, like proper fusion technology, which is what the sun does. So once we get there, then that's limitless electricity forever, ever. And then we can start thinking about the next set of
real problems.
But as a bridge, because right now we aren't at close enough to break even on the fusion reaction to make it self-sustaining. As a bridge, I think we do need to be looking at smarter fission technology, which exists now. So, yeah.
Great stuff. David, you're on.
What the hell, man? You expect me to follow that up?
Well, that was all Tony. That wasn't me.
You kidding? No, you were talking like little nuclear reactors. My first thought was electric cars, right? And I'm going to be honest, there's a couple videos on this platform called YouTube about how they're not really great daily drivers.
I would debate you on that.
If you plan properly and you don't actually have to drive 150 miles for work.
Yes.
Well, why can't we all
use driving 150 miles? You have 300 on your battery.
Mm-hmm.
You start running your accessories. Are you going to make it home?
We talk about what use case for what car. I know the Tesla semis. I'm not sure if you've seen these. The model that they had is
I've seen those.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're going to put a semi on a semi, and that way they could swap it out. And so when the battery would run for like the long haul, they could pull one motored cabin off and then swap them out. So that way the other one can theoretically charge solar, or if there's like a recharge station like on what that is, it could run juice back into the Tesla. Fascinating idea. I guess Pepsi bought a bunch of those. But right now, as you're right, they're built with enough mileage to go from northern Nevada to Fremont, California, and that's which is very convenient for Tesla.
Well, these guys are all intelligent. They won't think of hooking a generator to some wheels and letting it spin and charge as it goes.
Yeah.
That they won't think of that. But
how about just having?
It's not a bad idea.
Those are all the same anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So just use.
Well, that's the thing is, all these countries that are going carbon free by what 2030 was what someone said. I don't think that's going to happen.
Very difficult.
Very 2050 is the new goal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. But once you get the electric cars to the point where we can daily drive them, and we don't have to plan properly to have our car right so we can make it wherever we're going and back, then it's going to be feasible.
Yeah, agreed.
As of right now, hybrids. I actually looked at a Jeep Wrangler hybrid when I was at the dealership getting some maintenance done on my Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a 4-cylinder turbo in it, 2-liter. It's but they put them in a lot of the new ones now. But the battery is under the seat, and it's literally a hybrid. You drive it around the city, it's on electric. You hop on the freeway, it switches it over to gas, but it charges the battery while you're on the freeway.
Love it. Love it.
So, I mean, this, if you plan properly, you could get 2,000 miles out of a freaking tank of gas.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
That's
amazing.
And it is kind of crazy how these hybrids work. As we go, they get better.
Yep.
At first, the old ones, I would not buy one.
Right.
There's no way you would catch me buying one.
Well,
Tesla needs their own gas.
Well, I'm very proud.
Tesla needs their own gas station, and what you do is you switch batteries. You don't put fuel in. You switch batteries.
Just battery swaps.
Yeah.
Now that's actually a good thought right there. But another thing that we ain't thinking about, we're thinking about saving the environment. Okay, what about getting rid of the batteries?
Yes. Like because that lithium when it runs out. Yep. Again, Shoot it to the sun. No, I'm kidding. But
Hey, it'll burn up everything.
Yeah.
We got to be able to shoot something with it.
No, it's funny. I was looking at like Ford is putting out, I don't know, like they have like 12 or 13 different models of the new Ford Escape, and like I think 9 of them are hybrids, and they look, I mean, they're Ford Escapes, but they're hybrids, and I think, I mean, I'm almost at new car point, so that I think that new Escape, maybe next year's Escape might be the one that I'm looking into, but absolutely, I totally agree on the hybrid technology.
Hey, the longer those hybrids are out, the better they're going to get.
Yep.
And they've been out for a long time now, over probably 14, 15 years.
A long time. I had a hybrid.
Yeah, they've been out for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to questions, I got kind of a interesting one. What did you want to be when you were a kid, and why?
I wanted to be a Jedi Knight because obviously.
Nice.
And then
it
became
the right answer. That was the right answer.
There's no incorrect answer to this, though. That's a good answer too. But money, though, if money wasn't a factor, what would you do with your time?
If all of a sudden I was a billionaire, like if I had Elon Musk money and I could just do whatever, I think I would do a couple of different things. I would, number one, I would enroll in school again and go get a couple of PhDs, because at that point, if you can just learn and, I mean, can you imagine being able to go to college for the rest of your life? How awesome would that be? I mean, not necessarily like, Animal House days, but just devoting your life to actually like learning new things. That'd be really cool without having to worry about financial stuff at all. And then on top of that, I would actually, I'd probably get into some form of investment banking with a focus in on loaning money to small businesses in at-risk areas to try to foster like a good business environment around these parts of town that have lots of promise, but because of the economic conditions in the surrounding areas might not always be the most attractive places to start a business, and really try to help out those communities in those ways. So I think that's kind of what it would be.
Okay. Okay, I got to respond to Crazy Juice. Said something in the chat like way earlier, right? He said, "How do I feel about Utah getting a hockey team?" So we're talking NHL. We've actually had a hockey team, but it's like like baseball. They have a minor league, right? So we do have a hockey team right now, but it's not, not NHL. There's talks about the Arizona Coyotes coming to Salt Lake City. And a lot of people are like, what's the name going to be? You don't really need to actually change the name because we have Coyotes. But it's just one of those things. It's not set in stone yet. We will see what happens.
How about
I'm excited.
Coyote?
I'd go.
Love it.
Brian,
They
what do you got, buddy?
They could tweak it.
I'm not a hockey fan. I wish Honolulu could have a hockey team, though. That'd be awesome.
That would be cool. What would you call them?
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have the population to sustain one, but what would we call them? I don't know. I mean, the University of Hawaii is the Rainbow Warriors, so it would probably be. Oh gosh, yeah. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about that. Like, what would be a good hockey team name for a Hawaii hockey team? I don't know.
You could name them the Lava and just make sure that they put
That's
dye
awesome.
on the ice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Make the ice look like
melt them down. I love it. That's awesome, David.
I still like pineapples. Doesn't have to be scary.
All right. So we'll give you a couple football questions real quick, and then we'll ask you a couple of things that maybe about Hawaiian delights, like Hawaiian delicacies, and maybe something fun to eat with Spam. There's a guy in the chat, and we were actually giving each other back recipes about spam. So
yeah.
no shots, but I love spam. Some people say it's a Hawaiian delight. It's a Hawaiian delicacy, right? So, but because we were talking about sports and we were talking about Hawaii potentially having something, they used to have the Pro Bowl. So what's your thoughts on the Pro Bowl? Because it used to be there about, I want to say around 1980 to, I want to say 2016. And then and they took it away.
Yeah.
I always thought it was something really neat because, you know, like you get to go to Hawaii. You didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but you're going to Hawaii because you're a good player.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like you guys don't have maybe the easiest opportunity to see teams. Yeah. And for I live in Stockton. Stockton is the 49ers training camp after Rockland. Rockland. So they moved to Stockton, and then they moved to Santa Clara, and well, that's where they're at now, right? But for you guys getting to see a team come to you guys, like a lot of players, that it's not a real team, it's all the best players. It's the all-star game. So what's your thoughts on that? And before you go on that, I would also like you to follow up with your thoughts on the new hip drop tackle and how that's going to affect the league. And
okay.
Kickoff rule. We're about kickoff.
Okay. You're gonna have to remind me of these topics because ADHD brain sometimes will forget the next two. So please keep me on task.
You're good.
Okay.
No worries.
So okay. So thoughts on the Pro Bowl. So I was very lucky growing up in that because my dad worked in the stats crew, we were able to always kind of get Pro Bowl tickets, right? I mean, they weren't like the box seats. Hawaii didn't really have a luxury box anyway. Maybe there was, but it wasn't like the coolest luxury box, and it wasn't 50-yard line seats. We always had good seats though, somewhere in between like the 20s, and on the, not in the end zones. So I've gone to a fair amount of Pro Bowls, and it was also it was so much fun. And especially in '95 when the Niners won. And almost every single player on that NFC team that year was a 49er. It was Jesse Sapolu and Bart Oates and Harris Barton, right? Brent Jones, I mean, William Floyd, I think I'm not sure if William Floyd made the Pro Bowl that year, but Ricky Waters and Deion Sanders and Steve, I mean, we got to see them all. And that was really neat to see them, up close. And it was cool too, because since Hawaii doesn't have a team, all the fans of all the different teams who lived in Hawaii kind of could go and it was a celebration of the NFL. And it was a whole week of activities. So if you were, walking around Waikiki during that week, you might see John Elway just, going into a restaurant or something. And that was always like pretty cool. Or get caught in an elevator if you're, I don't know, like if you're working in the hotel and, you're going to do work, you could get caught in the elevator with like, I don't know, like, Lawrence Taylor or something like that. So it was a really, really great thing. And the problem with the Pro Bowl is originally, it was envisioned as, what do we do to celebrate the All-Stars in the NFL that's going to get the NFL players to want to go and do it? Because, it's a physical sport. They're risking, people like have lost their careers participating in Pro Bowl week. What was it? Edwards, the New England running back, blew out his knee on sand in Waikiki Beach. And he was never the same running back and that was his rookie year. And he had a great rookie. He might've won rookie of the year that year. Correct me if I'm wrong. He had a very good rookie running back year. And his career was completely changed because he went to the Pro Bowl and played on the sand game in the week's run-up. So originally, the players were saying, hey, come to Hawaii because they could bring their families, and it was like a big luxury vacation destination. And that's why, for, a good 20, 30 years, the Pro Bowl was in Hawaii. And as time went on, the problem became the population of Hawaii, believe it or not, had problems filling the stadium. The Aloha Stadium, right? And for whatever the reason, it was always about a sellout, but it was never quite a sellout, right? And the Pro Bowl became a lot more about the marketing surrounding it. And then, the games got more and more garbage because the players don't want to get hurt, understandably so. But, it ended up just kind of being these, like it was a really fun exhibition game to see the stars, but it wasn't quality football. You'd have something like Marshall Falk would go for like, I don't know, over 200 total yards from scrimmage on like a fake punt, and cool stuff like that would happen. But it wasn't exactly football. And so the quality of the game, I mean, now it's not even a game, but the quality of the game went down. And because of the fact that it's expensive to have the game in Hawaii, our stadium began to fall farther and farther into disrepair, to the point where now we don't have a stadium. So if the NFL was like, hey, Hawaii, well, we want to give you the Pro Bowl back, we couldn't take it because we don't have a venue for it. So the stadium got too old for it, and there wasn't enough money to be made on the Pro Bowl in Hawaii. And so that's why they moved it, I think, the first year in Jacksonville. And now Vegas does seem like a good venue for the Pro Bowl every single year, quite frankly. But that, and it pains me to say that, though, because it was a very fond memory from my childhood, was being able to go to those games and seeing all the All-Stars, right? And also, you got to remember this, Hawaii is home to a lot of Polynesians, right? And, Polynesians there are a lot of excellent Polynesian football players. And so giving those kids the exposure to those are the pro athletes, right? It was an incredibly powerful thing for that, and so it's sad that we don't have it anymore. I totally understand. And we can't have it now because we don't even have a stadium if we wanted to have it. But I wish we could get the Pro Bowl back. I don't ever think it's going to happen. And I wish it could come back because it was always just a fun event. But then again, nowadays, because that flag football, at some point, I guess they're going to hook up a video game console to the players and they'll be able to control them, I guess, by fan vote or something. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the skills competitions are good. And the other thing, I feel the draft week has sort of taken over for what the Pro Bowl kind of, I think, served, in terms of like NFL people getting together and talking all about the NFL. And I think they can make more money doing that than and it's also more impactful for the NFL, for the NFL as a whole than having the All-Star game. So anyway, I missed the Pro Bowl and I wish it was still in Hawaii. So, yeah.
I'm really glad I asked you that question because I didn't know the stadium's gone. I heard it was a really, really big stadium because
like
they wanted to be able to have enough people.
Yeah. But it was literally condemned and it's still up. It still needs to be taken down. It's still up. It's just, you literally are not allowed to go inside because it might collapse. That's how bad it is. So it's an eyesore and it's sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that makes me feel really, I'm just going to segue just for a second. The Oakland A's are going to be playing in Sacramento, California now because of a dispute on ownership and, dispute on the city. And it's really just terrible. So I would like the team for the fans to light a green beam in Sacramento. They got the purple beam for the Kings. Let's light a beam for the A's fans, not for the ownership. But
right.
That's interesting that you were able to, because here in Stockton as well, UOP Stadium, Tiger Stadium, it's no longer standing. They took it down. They were using it for high school football games, and I got to play there a couple times, and they were also using it for soccer. So with it not being really a spot for it, that's really sad. So our next question, and it's going to really be kind of all of our questions. What do you feel about? And I'll get you after your thoughts. The next question. What are your thoughts on the new tackle rule? How is it going to change the NFL, and your just thoughts overall? Because it kind of sounds like it's going to be maybe pushing for flag football potentially, right?
Okay, so read the flag football thing. The reason why football is the most popular sport in America, and it's a truly American sport, invented at West Point to emulate war, right? The reason why football is a good sport is because it's a contact sport. That's kind of the point. It's our gladiatorial arena. They're wearing armor, right? These guys are paid good money. All of those things. It is a dangerous sport, and that being said, anything that the league can do to limit players' exposure to career-threatening injuries is ultimately a good thing within the context of how do we make sure it's still football, right? So the question then becomes, how does the new tackle rule comport with football? And with that in there, will it still be football? And the answer, I don't know, because I've listened to how many podcasts and read stuff on the internet about, this and that and this and that. I need to see it. I need to actually see it. And so it's incomplete. I don't really know how to feel about it. I do think that Richard Sherman, I think, came out and said that, it's just giving the offense more, makes it easier on the offense. Right. And that very well may be the case. I don't want to see our prized athletic heroes hurt, when Bo Jackson got hurt, that wasn't that kind of a tackle, but that was heartbreaking. Right. So, what is it? Robert Edwards from the Patriots, when he blew out his knee on the sand. that was tragic, right? I mean, all those guys, Patrick Willis, like he could still play, but he retired early because of anyway. Anything that we can do to limit, like those injuries, I think is a good thing. But at the same time, football still needs to be football. It still needs to be fast, about hits, and about the mix of tactics and strategy, all those things, and I don't think it's going to make football not football, but again, I need to see it before I can pass judgment. What do you guys think? Yeah.
You can still get hurt playing flag football. Yes. I'll tell you right.
That's true.
Dre Greenlaw got hurt this year. Kirk Cousins got hurt this year. They weren't playing football. They were just non-contact injuries. They were just, like they were playing football. But these things can happen, and so we're still not going to get a real game.
Right.
There's just going to be flags on these guys. Yeah. They're not going to have to wear their helmet or their pads, and that's really what it's about. They don't want to do that.
And that's when soccer takes over the U.S., by the way. Like when football goes away, that's when soccer takes over. Hopefully that won't happen because football is greater than soccer, in my humble opinion. But
until Brian and I create our kickball league of America. Actually, there already is one, unfortunately. But we're going to rival.
That's a great thought. Like there was that funny movie back in the day, Basketball, where they merged basketball and baseball together. And if you've seen the movie, it's a hilarious movie. It's not for kids, folks. But all right, so like the next question. The next question is similar to this question. It's on the topic of the new kickoff change, and I think it stems from CTE and them trying to make it a safer sport. But with your thoughts, just on the new way it's going to shape out, do you just need to see it before you really give past judgment, or are you? I'm a kicker. I love special teams. I have a Jake Moody jersey. That's how dedicated I am. I have a Mitch Wisnowski practice jersey right here.
That's awesome.
Disturbing.
I like special teams. So for me, with the way they're changing it and stuff like that, I'm not a big fan. But Tony, your thoughts?
I actually like it. The reason why the NFL, because a greater percentage of injuries happen on the kickoff than on any other play in football with the people running full steam at each other. Okay, I understand that. All the things they've done about the, the touchback is now to the 25, like previous to this rule change, it wasn't as much fun for me to watch as the previous, rules. Now, the thing I like about this is I think it's going to do two things. It's going to make players like Deebo Samuel, for instance, are going to become a lot more valuable, right? Those guys who have that fast with the ball in their hand, start, stop, right? Because they are going to, again, I'm excited for it for Deebo Samuel alone. I believe Deebo Samuel needs to be returning all of the Niners kickoffs this year now because he could be a true weapon on those kickoff returns because they're not going to be allowed to run full steam at each other and Deebo could break it for a touchdown. And that would be a huge weapon and, make him that much more valuable of a player and help him earn his contract a lot more. So I'm excited for it from that. I'm also excited because I think it would also, would require kickers to get a bit more precise in terms of like where they're going to be dropping the ball. So, on one hand, it stinks because, we just drafted Jake Moody, who the whole point of drafting Jake Moody over Robbie Gould was to have a guy with a big leg who could always get a touchback, right? And then hit those 60-yard field goals, right? It takes away that tactical advantage of the big leg kicker on a kickoff. But at the same time, it also goes to control. It's like, what is it? Happy learns to putt, right? So it's, okay, how do we now kick in a way that will allow for play to happen? And I think that because of the new rules, not allowing the full running at each other and all of that, it will cause kickers to be wanting to kick off within the 20s, within the 20. And then it's, so the control is going to be more important. And then it's going to allow really good athletes to show off how exactly good they are. And that's what I'm more worried about than anything else, upsetting the balance of the game. Because, if all of a sudden, if Deebo Samuel has 3 touchdowns returning kickoffs in a game, like that changes football dramatically. And, it's still football because it's guys tackling each other, right? But then things will get interesting. And Vegas is going to go nuts if all of a sudden they figure out how to return a lot of touchdowns, and I think that's going to be very possible with the kinds of athletes that play in the NFL today. But why are you against it? What don't you like about it?
Man, against it. So I'm not against it because we have Debo, we have CMC, we
already
have
had
guys
that.
that break tackles, and they're all lined up in one line. They're not coming at them in layers anymore.
Right.
What do you think's going to happen? You know?
Yeah, but we're not
And-
strong in special teams. That's just bad news for the Niners.
thing. Oh, hold on. Now, the one thing that we're lacking on special teams is since our coach Kyle took over, we have been amongst the bottom of the league. Not totally on the bottom though. We're not the worst in coverage. So stopping them from gaining yards, right? And this
makes it easier for them.
Well, no. I mean, we
literally
have
makes
our
it-
big leg kicker. We can just kick it off and freaking touch it back every time.
I guess
We
We've
don't
never
even
been
have
good
to
at
use
special
it. But
teams.
our
Make it
punt return team still has to do their job,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Usually those
but
winners
yeah,
are-
when it comes to kickoff returns, put Debo and Jordan Mason or someone back there like a running back type that's going to run through a guy. And then once he runs through a guy, if there's no one else right there to clean that guy's mess up, it's
Guess
the
who couldn't
kicker.
tackle last?
The
Niners.
kicker's he's left back there because he can't pass the 50, right, Bryant? He can't
remember
pass the
couldn't tackle
50.
last
So
year.
he's
That's all
going
I
to be
can
back
remember.
there by
last year.
himself to get ran over or to do the running over. That ought to be an interesting saga too. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Look at this.
Right.
This
This
is
is
what we're
scary.
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's our 10 guys. That's the X's.
Mm-hmm.
That's-
There's our
vital.
kicker, that little, slash over there. And he cannot pass the 50. That's the rule. And they're going to be lined up right there. I mean, it's just one layer. They're not going to be coming in waves anymore.
What a disaster.
And since he can't pass the 50, you're going to get into a situation where you're going to have like what is it, like 10 on 8 or 10 on 9? In terms of like
It's 10
yeah,
on 9 on the line. On
Yeah.
the line is 10 on 9. If you
Yeah.
have 2 returners, if you have 1 returner, then it's 10 on 10.
Mm-hmm.
But
And then-
still, everyone's got a block going on, and that guy's just got to break through one line, maybe
Let me
break
ask
one
one
guy.
tackle.
Just
On the block-
one break and gone.
Is the
So
kicker
the rule-
protected in terms of like, are you allowed to block the kicker? Because here's the thing. If you've got 10 on 9 on the offense, right, there are guys who will knock over the other guy and they run straight for the kicker and knock that kicker over, like on the block, right? And then all of a sudden,
Such a bad
I
idea.
did not see anything against somebody blocking the kicker.
Yeah.
Right. But they are trying to protect the kicker
That
by
is a
keeping him on the other
strategic
side of the
move right
50.
there.
But how much protection are you giving him when a freight train like Debo Samuel is coming right at him?
He's not tackling anybody.
That's
Yeah. No.
The
right.
kicker's out of the play.
Okay. So
He doesn't
why am
belong
I
in this play.
why am I not a fan of this? Is because I didn't like it when they moved the touchback from the 20 to the 25. I
Same.
didn't like it when they eliminated the
Making it easier.
the onside.
Yeah, the
call-
onside
the
kick.
onside-
Yeah.
I like Pat McAfee, a whole lot, and the whole ability to punter or a kicker can kick off. I love that, part of the game. But for him to be able to do it, and him having that like special element.
Hey, you should be
of
able
it-
to throw it if you can get it down there.
Yes. So the
Whatever
whole
you-
thing too is like you kick the ball. If the other team doesn't touch it, it's a live ball. So like for us, like nobody can move except the kicker or the returner at this point. It seems it's changed it a whole lot. I know a lot of people like to joke and say, "Oh, that's the time where you're supposed to get up and go use the restroom or go get you a sandwich or something." During that time, during the kickoff, it's like supposed to be the field goal, the point after attempt, and the kickoff is supposed to be the most boring part of the game, right? Well, not necessarily, and it's all your aspects and how you look at it. So for me, again, I guess if it's for player safety and stuff, but like I like how you said it too. At a certain point, these warriors, these gladiators, they got to go out and be their guys, right? And we are paying them a pretty penny, paying to watch them a very pretty penny as well. So I think at a certain point, they're not babies. And if you keep changing it, it's going to become flag football. And if you keep changing it, then it's going to get to a point where it's not flag football anymore. We're going to be. Did you see that movie? The movie with the little girl and the dad. I think it was the dad, and he's got like the robot, headband, and it's like robot boxing or something like that. They're like a kickboxing.
Okay.
So
Real Deal or something like that.
it's a really cool movie,
Real
and I think
Steel,
Real
not
Steel.
sponsored YouTube. Real Steel.
I think that's
But
what
if they
ultimately. I think we're moving towards that. I think they're going to have guys in a room where they're maybe got a VR, and I think it's going to move to that point where you still have to be like quick enough or like be able to respond fast enough. But I think they're going to eventually take it away. They might end up doing this to NASCAR as well. And there's a lot of things that can happen. But if that's the goal,
People will be
ultimately
crashing cars on purpose. They're doing remote control NASCAR.
So I mean, you gotta look at it, and you gotta think about it at the end of the game too. Why are we getting together to compete? To kind of show off, right? It's not all about ego thing, but it is about saying we accomplished something. The group of us or an individual did it. And I do like your reference again about chess being like football. It's strategic, and it's you plan it out and you make your moves accordingly. So, Tony, we do want to keep it to about an hour, and we want to have you on again sometime. This has been really fun. Anytime you'd like to do it, we'd definitely like to just send out the bat signal, and have you come back on.
Well, I appreciate that.
Really blown away that you said yes to come on, and really appreciate it. We do a little bit more, just talking a little bit more about life in general. And I guess the last question to end the show with everybody, and if you were going to pick the next Disney movie. So I'm a Volkswagen guy, right? And I've been asking everybody this. I was on a Kool-Aid trip, kick, if you want to say. I like asking people what flavor Kool-Aid is it, right? Or what are you handing me? Is it cherry or is it red? Is it grape or is it purple, right? And I have a funny story about that, because if you hand me cherry Kool-Aid, it's red. But if you hand me black cherry, it's a little darker red, right? If you hand me tropical punch, right? If you hand me lemonade, right? It's yellow. Pink lemonade is pink. So to get back to it, if you're going to, I like Volkswagens too, and it's really neat, like with the technology talk and stuff. That's why I want you back on too, because I'm actually converting my Volkswagen into a Subaru motor, a Subaru conversion. So I'm bolting up the old transmission to the Subaru motor. I'm putting it's going to be a lot of fun.
Upcycling.
And I like that old school technology, but I also like the ability to, I know fossil fuels are going to be around for a little longer, but the battery does bother me. But one day I do want to ultimately make my bus electric. But with that, we have Herbie, and I've asked David, because David's a Jeep guy. So do you mind telling us what vehicle you drive? And if you don't, that's okay. But I still have a good question.
I have a very utilitarian 2016 Ford Escape, just a basic model. So like I do like sport SUVs. Like I like, because I'm 6'3", so I like bigger cars. I like having the ability to throw fishing poles in the back or like whatever, or take bags to the airport, whatever it may be. So yeah, I drive a Ford Escape.
Awesome. So I love it. There's a little running joke in my family. We are all kind of Chevy guys. We all have German cars. Every one of us has a Mercedes or a Volkswagen. But my brothers, they have some Chevy trucks, right? And my dad, he kind of got us started with that. He had a Chevy Corvette. My brother gets a Chevy Corvette. So my youngest brother, right, he likes Fords. And we all say, well, that's because you got red hair. You got red hair, right? So we give him a hard time about it. So now Mustangs come out with an SUV. Yeah, and I told him, I said, well, so is it still a Mustang? And he tells me it's not a Mustang. It's not a Mustang. Well, it is a Mustang. They named it Mustang, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at me and you meet another person named Bryant, well, they're still a Bryant, right? They're just a different version, right? They're just a different Bryant. So if you were going to get to name the next Disney movie, and I'm telling you, it's going to feature a Ford Escape, what is that name of that vehicle? Because we got the Herbie. David wants to name the Jeep, the next Disney movie that's featuring a Jeep, the General. Okay. So what are you naming the Ford Escape?
In a Disney movie?
Yeah. We got Lightning McQueen, right? We got Herbie the Love Bug. So what would you name the Ford?
The hardest question of the night.
You know, honestly, I would probably give it a person name. I would want to see a Mickey Mouse origin story in the Ford Escape SUV. So I would call it the Mickey. That's what it would be.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So, folks, thank you so much for coming and watching. We like to keep it to about an hour. David's going to start his show in about 15, 20 so minutes. Tony, I will shoot you the link if you'd like to join, or if you would like to just watch in the comments, either way. But we would love to have you back on again, talk more Niners. Folks, there's been some news about Tom Brady saying he would like to come back if there's an option. Right? And then there's also been some Twitter news about, not Twitter necessarily, there's been some Instagram news about Brandon Ayuk, and we all know it's all about the money. It's about the money, folks. So say it with your best Jerry Maguire voice. Show me the money, pay the man, right? Guys, thank you so much for coming. Tony, thank you so much. And
folks, if you're not going to pop in, at least go check out my thumbnail. That picture was sent to me by my daughter. That's where she lives right now. So
definitely come check out the naughtier version of this show.
Yeah, we keep a little here. Yep. The after hours will ask you a little bit more about your favorite Bigfoot encounter, you know, the mermaid that you found over there, Tony. There is that good point there. I thought it was real for the longest time. And I think it was on Natural Geographic or something like that, that submarine where the mermaid hit but it was fake, folks. And if you want to find out if the moon is hollow, go over there to David McNiner's channel and we'll talk about that bell ringing.
Guys, thank you so much for having me on your show. Aloha.
Peace. Peace.